Good afternoon folks, welcome to Visordown. My name is Toad. We're at the Super Sausage Cafe today and we are reviewing Honda's new GB350S. This is our first UK road test of the year, which makes me very happy because we've been riding around the roads around Silverstone. The sun is shining and I can see one cloud in the sky, which makes it feel like spring has most definitely sprung and the riding season is upon us. And it's been a very nice introduction into 2025's UK road test season because we are the second outlet in the UK, I think, to get their hands on Honda UK's official GB350S press bike. So I've had it for about 2 weeks now. I've done a little bit of everything on it, including hacking down to London all the way down the M1 just to see whether it was really bad at that or completely awful at that. A bit more on that in a little bit. I've covered around about 450 miles on the thing. It had only got 11 miles on the clock when it was delivered, so it wasn't even ran in. So I've basically ran it in for Honda for them. Oh, hold on. Here we have the Popo. Oh no! It's Fireman Sam. So I've basically ran it in for Honda. All the miles that are on it are miles that I've put on it. And it's been a lot of fun actually. This bike, I was a bit gutted when Honda UK said it wasn't coming to the UK because you looked at it on paper, what it represents in terms of value for money, retro style, low performance, accessibility, and character. You look at what it can do and you think, well, that could be Honda's silver bullet to Royal Enfield, and that could be the bike that takes Honda into that sort of market of producing the retro budget, you know, good value motorcycles that can really take the fight to brands like Royal Enfield. And then Honda UK said, no, it's never going to come to the UK. And it only took them about 1.5 years of people nagging on the internet before they did a massive U-turn and decided that they were going to bring it here. So it is, in UK trim, 3,949 quid, which by anyone's book is quite a lot of motorcycle for not a lot of money. So with regards to the competition, it's a little bit more than the Hunter 350, which I think is £3,000 at the moment, and it's a lot less than the BSA 650 Gold Star, which comes in at about £5,000. But it's still a great value motorcycle from them. Performance-wise from the engine, we've got 20 bhp and we've got 21 pound-foot of torque. So this is not a bike which the performance of it is going to set your hair on fire. We've got a very long stroke engine configuration. So we've got a 70mm bore and a 90.5mm stroke. So it's got a kind of a long stroke architecture, which gives it that nice lazy character that you want from a retro classic looking bike such as this. Chassis wise, we've got non-adjustable telescopic forks at the front and we've got very retro looking twin shocks at the rear. There is no adjustability anywhere on the bike whatsoever, so you've got to like it or lump it. Braking system, got 2-pot Nissan caliper at the front, which is 2-pot sliding caliper. Got a single caliper at the rear, and you've got 2-channel ABS. On the electronics front, it's just ABS and traction control, and that is it. And the traction control is actually switchable. You've got a natty little button on the side of the speedometer nacelle there that you can turn the traction control off if you so wish. But with 20 horsepower, you're never going to really be worrying the traction control that much unless you decide to recreate Bambi on ice. Fuel tank, we have got a 15-litre fuel tank, and Honda claim around 240 miles worth of range from this thing. I put that to the test the other day, and you've got a curb weight of 178 kilograms and a seat height of 800 millimeters on the button. All of that basically says to me, this is an accessible motorcycle, which was one of the things that I set out to find out when I was testing it. Can it still be accessible? Can it be fun to ride? Can it have bags of character? I'm going to start by talking about the handling, which is strange given that it's not a performance bike, but that's one of the things that I've noticed about the bike is how just nice and balanced the handling of it is. Obviously the suspension is non-adjustable, but the way that Honda have set it is more on the firm side without being harsh or crashy. So it doesn't feel budget when you hit bumps and potholes. It doesn't fall through its stroke when you get on the brakes quite hard. And I think that's just because there is zero adjustability at the front or at the back. You know, it's got to be able to take lightweight people, heavier people, and also 2 people, which I've also tested. In terms of the bike's composure when you're riding it, it obviously takes quite a while to get up to speed. But once you get there and you're on a twisty B road, it's actually got quite nice composure in the corners. We've got some decent spec Metzler Torrance Next tyres, so they're always going to be more than up to the task of carrying a bike that's this weight with this power output on a twisty B road. But all in all, it just feels very sure-footed, and despite being a very budget bike, none of its suspension components really scream a budget part. They don't make you think that it's underdamped or undersprung in any way like that. So on that front, it all feels very reassuringly nice. The same can't be said for the brakes, which I mean, it's a 2-piston Nissan caliper. It's obviously been built down to a budget, and there is braking power there, but you really have to work at the lever. And when you do get into the meat of the lever, the feel of the front brake especially is quite wooden. The back brake's got quite a bit of power. In all honesty, on a bike like this, at the speeds that you're going to be riding at, if you're a normal, sane individual, you're not really going to need the brakes that much, because you've got a 350cc single-cylinder engine with a long-stroke architecture, so you just use all of the engine braking. You know, you've got a nice little slipper clutch in there, which helps to gobble up any of the extra torque. Use the engine braking, and you very, very rarely need to actually use the brakes. The only time that I felt that they were really lacking is when I've got 2 people on the back, and then you just feel the lever coming back to the bar, and there's just not enough braking power there. But for what it is, for the type of bike it is, and for the way that people are going to be riding it, I don't think it's a problem in any way, shape or form. Going to talk about the engine of it, because I mean, it's an interesting format for Honda to be building a single cylinder when the only other single cylinders in the range are kind of the commuter stuff, CBF 125 or CB125F, and they've come out and they've brought this out, which has only got marginally more horsepower than a CBT learner legal 125cc bike. What this has got that all of those smaller capacity 125s don't have is a really, really nice engine character. This is so reminiscent of my uncle's old Royal Enfield Bullet 350 that he had about 25 or 30 years ago, in that it just chugs and it just plugs, and you know, you hit a slight incline in 5th gear and you hear the revs sort of just starting to tail off, and it reminds me of sitting at the edge of the road when the Banbury Run used to go through Stratford and around Coventry, and you'd sit and you'd hear the bikes as the old vintage bikes, they started to go up the hill, and you'd start to hear the engine sort of slowing down and the revs starting to die off. And it's kind of what these bikes are all about. They're not about going fast, but what Honda have done, because it can't really go fast, is they've just given it bags and bags of character and a massive dollop of charm. And almost all of that is coming from the bike's engine, because it's got that beautiful engine note, it's got that beautiful feel to it, in that Honda have left enough of the single cylinder vibration in there at low speed to remind you that it's a mid-capacity single cylinder with long stroke. But what they haven't done is let that vibration come through at motorway speeds. So when you're up at 65 miles an hour, which is really where this is happiest, you don't get any sort of vibes through the bars or through the foot pegs or through the tank. And you go higher than that and they go away even further. Where you get the vibes, and they're kind of nice, is when you're going lower speed, you're in 4th and 5th gear, plug into a village at 40 miles an hour, the thing feels like it's doing about 1500 RPM, and it just takes you off down the road. And I don't mind the vibes at that, because if you're buying a bike like this, you're buying into that character, and it's something that you probably want. You probably want that authenticity and that feel of having a retro single cylinder bike. Talk quick about the gearbox as well. Obviously it's no quick shifter on this thing, and it has only got 5 gears. Yes, shock horror, 5 gears. I don't know when the last time I rode a motorcycle and it only had 5 gears, but there we have it. It has got 5. The first 2 are very closely spaced together, so you bang into the rev limiter in 1st and 2nd very quickly. Then 3rd feels more like a normal gear, and then 4th is normal, and then 5th is like this ridiculously long overdrive, where even if you're cruising on the motorway at sort of 60 miles an hour and you just want to nip round a truck, you will have to drop a gear. You can't roll on the throttle because the acceleration from it is pretty leisurely at that sort of speed. It also means that if you're riding on the A5 like I have been doing today, where you've got these big long hills and you're timing an overtake, you really need to make sure you've got your overtake done before you get to the bottom of the hill, because as soon as you start going up that next hill, you are going to start slowing down quite drastically, and you probably will need to kick it down into 4th gear. But what's fun about this, and this is something that's been going around my head all day, it's much more enjoyable to ride a slow bike fast than it is to ride a fast bike slow. And by that I mean, on the UK roads, you know, the B roads around here around Silverstone and Northamptonshire and Oxfordshire and the Cotswolds, you can't go 1,000,000 miles an hour. You can't go 100 miles an hour even. So it's much nicer to ride a bike that is almost at the point where it can go as fast as it can and you throttle to the stop everywhere, rather than riding a super naked or a middleweight sports bike where you're always just in that middle ground where the bike doesn't really feel very good. So in that respect, it is still a lot of fun to ride on roads just like this. So, a quick sum up of it really. I think it's probably 2025's most charming little bike already arrived. And I say little because it's quite big compared to some of the other bikes in the class. It feels bigger than the Speed 400, feels bigger than the Hunter 350. It's got a big bike aesthetic, and that makes it a really enjoyable thing to ride on the road because you don't feel like you're getting intimidated and dominated by the other traffic. And I just mentioned two of the other bikes there, the Hunter and the Speed 400. It's a tough little segment that this is going into because there aren't bags of what you'd call premium brands in that segment. So you've got the Enfield Hunter 350, which is the 3K bargain. You've got the Speed 400 in this, which are around about the £4,000 mark. And you've got the Goldstar 650, which is kind of a bit more premium and a bit more authentically classic looking of the lot. And whereas the Enfield's got the value, the Triumph Speed 400 has got the outright handling. That thing is brilliant handling on the road. And the Goldstar has got that authentic 1960s, 1970s retro look that none of the others have really got. This one's got bags more character than any of them, I would say, and a lot more charm thrown into boot. It's been a fun bike, considering it's such low power. It's modest torque, and the way that it looks, and the way the suspension's set up, and all that different hardware that it's got on it. It's actually quite an enjoyable bike to ride, and it is one of those that the more you ride it, the more it gets into your skin, and the more you just want to take it out and go for another ride on it, which is what I'm going to do. So that is enough from me, folks. I've been Toad from Visordown.com. If you've liked that video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of Visordown's latest videos. And for the latest news, reviews and motorcycle features, get yourself over to Visordown.com.